Hello, my dear students. This is Miss May Mukhlis, and today we are going to talk about the adverbs and adverbial phrases of frequency in relationship to the present simple tense. How do we form a sentence in the present simple, and how to make negative and to ask and answer questions about the present simple. So let's start. Okay. Today we are going to learn about adverbs and adverbial phrases of frequency. I want you to think of this question. How often do you do things and how do we express this in English? How often do you walk to school, help at home, study English, cook? Okay, how do we answer these questions? How often do you walk to school? I always walk to school. How often do you help at home? I usually help at home. How often do you study English? I often study English. How often do you cook? I sometimes cook. So if we look at the words that are highlighted in red, they show us how often something is repeated. Always, usually, often, and sometimes are called adverbs of frequency. We use adverbs of frequency to show how many times something is repeated. So, when we want to express in English how we repeat an action or how we repeat things, we use the adverbs of frequency in the sentence. And it depends on how many times we repeat the actions that we choose the adverb of frequency. So if it happens 100% of the time, we use always. If I do something and I do it all the time, every day, we use always. And if I do it most of the time, 90% of the time, I say or I use the word usually, the adverb of frequency, usually. If it happens 70% of the time, we use often. And if it happens 50% of the time, we say sometimes. If it happens 20% of the time, I say hardly ever. And if it happens 0% of the time, if it doesn't happen, we say never. So the adverbs of frequency show us how many times we repeat the action or the action happens. The adverbs of frequency are useful when we talk about routines, the things we do regularly. When I want to express how many times I do my routine, I use the adverb of frequency. I usually get up early, for example. We always go to Alex in the summer. She sometimes visits her friends. They always arrive on time. But where do we place the adverb of frequency in a sentence? If we have a main verb, we put it before the main verb. And if we have a helping verb, we put it after the helping verb. So we place the adverb of frequency before the main verb and after the helping verb. For example, I always study in the morning. Study is a main verb, so we put always before study. We said, I always study, not I study always. I always study in the morning. We are always ready to help our friends. Are is a helping verb, so we placed the adverb of frequency always after are. We are always. She will never lie to you. Will, never. Will is a helping verb, so we placed never after the helping verb. He sometimes walks to school. Walks is a main verb. So we say he sometimes walk. We place the adverb of frequency before the main verb and after the helping verb. Now let's move to the adverbial phrases of frequency. We use the adverbial phrases to show how many times something is repeated or something happens. So again, we use the adverbial phrases of frequency to describe how many times something happens. They usually come at the end or at the beginning of the sentence. But what are the adverbial phrases of frequency? We could say the number of times that we repeat the action and the period or how regular we do it. So we say once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, once a month, once a year, etc. Or we could say every week, every month, every year, every Monday, and so on. So these adverbial phrases are showing us how many times an action is repeated. The present simple tense. We know that we use the present simple tense to talk about habits and routines. The things that we do on a regular basis, we usually use the present simple tense to express. So, because we use the adverbs of frequency to show how many times an action is repeated, and this action happens regularly, so we use the present simple tense. When we talk about things that happen on a regular basis or our habits and routines, we use the present simple tense. The form of the present simple. When the sentence starts with a plural subject, I, we, you, they, or a plural noun, we place the verb without adding anything. So we use the verb in the infinitive or the basic form without adding anything to it with I, we, you, they, and the plural subject. And if the sentence starts with a singular subject, he, she, it, or a singular noun, we add an S, ES, or IES to the verb. For example, I always walk to school. So we use I, walk. I plus the verb without adding anything. They usually travel to Paris in the summer. So they travel. They travel. I walk. They travel. We sometimes go to the cinema. Again, we is a plural subject, so it goes with the verb in the infinitive form without adding S. You always help your friends. You help. You help. He never gets up early. He is a singular subject, so we added S to the verb. Aya visits her grandparents twice a week. Aya visits her grandparents twice a week. So Aya is a singular subject, so we added S to the verb. She studies English every day. Okay, she studies English every day. So she is a singular subject. We added IES to the verb. We removed the Y and added IES. We go to the beach every summer. So we is a plural subject. We didn't add s to the verb. So how do we put these sentences in negative? In order to make a negative sentence in the present simple tense, if the sentence starts with he, she, it, or a singular subject, we use doesn't plus the infinitive form of the verb. And if the sentence starts with I, we, you, they, or a plural subject, we use don't plus the infinitive form of the verb. So let's try it. I always walk to school. How do we put this sentence in negative? I goes with don't. So we say, I don't walk to school. They usually travel to Paris in the summer. So they don't, yes, they don't usually travel to Paris in the summer. They don't usually travel to Paris in the summer. You always help your friends. You don't help your friends. We go to the beach every summer. We don't go to the beach every summer. He gets up early. He doesn't get up early. Aya visits her grandparents twice a week. Aya doesn't visit her grandparents twice a week. She studies English every day. She doesn't study English every day. Okay, now let's study how do we make a question in the present simple? We have two types of questions. Interrogative, it means the questions. We have two types of questions, yes or no questions and the WH questions. Now we will start with the yes or no questions. We use do or does plus subject plus infinitive. So yes, do goes with the plural subject, I, we, you, and they. Does goes with the singular subject, he, she, it, and the singular subject we said. Do you usually go to school by bus? Okay, how do I answer this question? If the question starts with a helping verb, we answer with a yes or no, and then we make a cross between the subject and the infinitive, the subject and the helping verb, sorry. So we make a cross between the subject and the helping verb. Do you usually go to school by bus? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Does Sarah like English? Yes, she does. No, she doesn't. Now, the WH questions. The WH question is formed like this. Question word, do or does, subject plus infinitive. For example, how do you go to school? Question word, do or does, you. So you goes with do. How do you plus the infinitive form of the verb and the complement of the question. I go to school by bus. When does Nada come home? We will remove the question word, remove the do or does, and start with the subject. Here, you changed into I, because when I speak to you, I say you, and when you speak about yourself, you say I. So again, let's do it again. We remove the when, remove the does, and start with Nada or she. Gets, because we removed does, so the verb gets to its initial form, gets home at 6 o'clock. Let's try to answer these questions. Choose the correct answer. Number 1, Aya always makes making delicious cakes. Let's look at the subject. Always means that this is a present simple tense, so singular subject goes with verb plus s. So Aya makes delicious cakes. Number 2, my best friend and I living in the same neighborhood. My best friend and I are plural subject, so we choose the verb without adding s. My best friend and I live in the same neighborhood. Number 3, we usually studies English in the afternoon. We usually means that the action is repeated or that this is a present simple tense. So we look at the subject. We is a plural subject and it goes with the verb without adding anything, without adding s. So we use study. Number 4. They sometimes runs, running at the track. Again, sometimes means that the action is repeated, so we use the present simple to express that, repeated actions or habits, routines. So we look at the subject, the plural subject, they goes with the verb without adding s. So we say they sometimes run at the track. Number 5, I always trying to do my best. Okay, I goes with try, verb without adding s. Now let's answer these questions. Does Ali space study because he always gets bad marks in exams? Does Ali A, usually, B, sometimes, C, ever, D, always? Okay, the answer is, does Ali ever study? Because he always gets bad marks in exams. Next question. We never rubbish on the floor. A, throws, B, to throw, C, throwing, D, throw. Again, we said that we is a plural subject, so it goes with number D, throw. Hamid visits his grandparents a month. Number A, twice, B, once, C, times, D, time. Hamid visits his grandparents 2 times a month. 2 times means twice, so we should use the word two. We should use the word times with 2. Which verb is used in the following sentence? He is a terrible cook. He always burns the food. A, present continuous, B, past simple, C, past continuous, D, present simple. He is a terrible cook. He always burns the food. This is in the present simple form in the first sentence because it's not followed by a verb plus ing, so it's the present simple. And he always burns the food. He burns, singular subject plus verb plus s, so it's number D, the present simple. Thank you for watching. This was our lesson for today, and I hope you enjoyed our lesson.